The lunch rush at Millie's Diner, a Route 66 Flagstaff institution, was easing off. Mandy, a 10-year veteran, barely looked up as the bell above the door chimed. Locals flocked to Millie's for greasy burgers and cheap coffee, drawn in, Mandy believed, by her sharp wit and direct approach. "Table for one," she muttered, her eyes glued to her notepad. Yet something about this new customer snagged her attention. He wasn't a regular, that was evident. He appeared to be in his late 30s or early 40s, and his headwear was striking, a stark red cap emblazoned with the words, "Make America Great Again." Her jaw clenched. She grabbed a menu, her irritation simmering. "Follow me," she said curtly, guiding him to a booth. The diner held its usual quiet afternoon crowd, retirees savoring pie, truckers polishing off their meals. With a deliberate thud, she placed the menu on the table. His gaze lifted, his blue eyes remarkably calm. "Thanks," he replied, settling into the booth. Mandy remained silent, pen poised over her notepad. "What'll it be?" she asked, her tone clipped. He surveyed the menu, seemingly unfazed by her hostility, perhaps deliberately ignoring it. "Black coffee," he said, "and the meatloaf special." She was about to note his order when he turned, revealing himself as Elon Musk, upending her preconceived notions with a life lesson she wouldn't soon forget. The camera operator quietly lowered his equipment, sensing a shift in the room's atmosphere. A moment of shared understanding, fragile yet palpable, hung in the air. Mandy, her gaze flitting between Karen's almost pleading expression and the young couple's mixture of wonder and unease, finally turned to Elon. "So what now?" she asked, a hesitant curiosity coloring her voice. Elon's faint smile held a quiet strength. "That's up to all of us," he replied gently. "We can continue reacting impulsively, making snap judgments, and shutting each other out. Or we can pause, start small, and try asking questions instead of issuing pronouncements." Gary, the usual instigator, chuckled. "Well, I listen," he admitted, though that doesn't always mean I agree. A wave of laughter tinged with relief eased the tension, though the gravity of the situation remained. "I have to concede," he continued. "The others have a valid point. We're too quick to condemn each other. When was the last time anyone truly listened to another perspective?" Elon, his voice softer, expressed his gratitude. "I appreciate you allowing me back," he said. "It wasn't something you had to do, and I recognize that." Mandy, after a brief pause, nodded. It wasn't a formal apology, not quite, but a beginning nonetheless. The bell above the door jingled as he departed. Silence followed, then Karen's coffee cup clinked softly against the counter. "Well," she remarked, "that's not something you see every day." A nervous, relieved laughter erupted, a sound more expressive of relief than amusement. The afternoon sun slanted through the windows, illuminating Mandy's decision. She wouldn't necessarily agree with every customer who entered Millie's, but she would offer them a hearing. This, she realized, was a debt she owed herself and them. Elon's parting words, "Ask a question instead of making a statement," resonated deeply. Their simplicity belied their profound impact. His advice echoed in her mind as the lunch rush subsided. She had been so quick to judge, assuming she understood others' narratives before they'd even begun to share them. How many times had she faced similar unfair judgments? The bell jingled, announcing another stranger. This time, Mandy met their gaze directly, offering a welcoming smile. "Welcome to Millie's," she greeted warmly, her voice steady. "Table for one?" The man nodded, and she guided him to a booth. While handing him the menu, her reflection caught her eye in the window. For the first time in a long while, she saw someone willing to embrace growth, despite the inherent challenges. She'd initially been surprised by Elon's concern, categorizing him as someone unconcerned by recent events. Yet his words lingered, prompting self-reflection. Growth, she mused, was rarely effortless. That was precisely what imbued it with significance. As the familiar hum of the diner returned, a quiet determination settled within Mandy. The past few days had been unsettling, forcing her to confront aspects of herself she hadn't examined in years. However, this self-confrontation, she now understood, wasn't necessarily negative. It was, in fact, a crucial component of her personal evolution. The weight of his words, simple as they seemed, had settled upon her, prompting a significant shift in her perspective and approach. She glanced at her hands. This change, this journey of growth, had only just begun. We're here to bring you stories that spark deeper thought, exploring narratives that resonate and challenge perspectives. If you found this story meaningful, please like, subscribe, and share it with others. There's always more to discover, more to ponder, more to share. The process of crafting these narratives involves several key steps. First, a thorough analysis of the source material is crucial. Understanding its structure and identifying core ideas and supporting details helps to preserve the essence of the original. Next, the text's structure is modified. Sentences are rearranged to forge a new narrative flow. Some are combined for greater impact, others split for clarity. Paragraphs are restructured to shift the focus, emphasizing different aspects of the story while maintaining its overall integrity. To achieve fluency, connecting words and phrases bridge sentences and paragraphs, creating a seamless reading experience. Abrupt transitions are smoothed out, ensuring a logical progression of ideas. Readability is paramount. The modified structure must remain clear and coherent, avoiding information overload. Finally, stylistic refinements are applied. Synonyms replace repeated words, enhancing vocabulary while maintaining the narrative's tone. The result is a polished piece, meticulously reviewed for accuracy, coherence, and stylistic excellence. Remember to share the stories that move you. Together, we can delve deeper into the narratives that shape our understanding. A $5 bill rested on the table. The man departed without a backward glance. The tension, however, remained, heavy and oppressive, clinging to the diner like a storm cloud. Mandy turned to the counter, shaking her head and muttering about people inviting trouble. The hushed murmur that had followed the confrontation now resumed, laced with whispers recounting the recent events. "That was bold, Gary," a retired mechanic who seemed to inhabit the corner booth remarked. "Have you always been so courageous, Mandy?" Mandy offered a smirk, but remained silent. The diner, once lively, had fallen quiet as a couple in the corner ceased their chat to observe the unfolding drama. Even the trucker at the counter shifted uneasily. "You know," Mandy had stated, her voice calm yet firm, "a hat like that is sure to cause problems here." The man looked up, startled. "Excuse me?" he questioned. Mandy, straightening her apron in a defiant stance, reiterated her point. "I have patrons who wouldn't tolerate what that hat represents, and neither do I." The man, a faint smile playing on his lips, leaned back. "I see," he replied. "So you're refusing service because of my headwear?" "You can keep your coffee," Mandy retorted. "But the meatloaf?" "No, not here." His smile vanished. "Interesting," he said quietly, rising. "Good to know where you stand." She had written it down, but remained motionless, arms crossed, her gaze fixed on him. The door closed behind him, but the impact of his departure lingered, thick and suffocating as smoke. Mandy, her movements swift and purposeful, replenished the coffee cups. The whispers surrounding the recent incident had escalated into outright pronouncements by the time she reached the trucker at the counter. "You know," the trucker began, his voice low, "that fella didn't seem like he was looking for a fight. Maybe he just wanted some food." Mandy slammed the coffee pot down, her irritation evident. "That hat," she declared, "speaks volumes. It's not just cloth. It's a statement. And that statement? I won't tolerate it here." The trucker retreated, his point undeniably made, though the underlying tension remained palpable. It wasn't about courage, she reflected. It was a matter of principle. There wasn't space for that kind of message in her establishment. She'd created a scene, yet she continued serving, as if nothing had transpired. Although not everyone shared her viewpoint, few openly challenged her. It was, after all, a diner, a place for sustenance, not political sparring. Yet the repercussions were clear. A young couple nearby abandoned their meal, departing without a word. Gary, observing from his booth, raised an eyebrow. The cook, peering from the kitchen window, muttered about the daily grind in this chaotic world. The $5 bill remained on the table, a stark reminder of the unresolved conflict. Beneath her confident exterior, however, Mandy grappled with self-doubt. She'd made her stand, but had she chosen the right approach? The incident quickly became the town's primary conversation piece. In Flagstaff's close-knit community, news spreads with alarming speed. Mandy immediately noticed the change. Customers offered sideways glances, some pointedly avoiding her gaze. She outwardly maintained composure, but internally the whispers gnawed at her. "Morning, Mandy. Karen?" The florist next door greeted, settling onto a stool. "Heard you had a bit of a kerfuffle yesterday." Mandy sighed, pouring Karen's usual coffee. "If you call defending what's right a kerfuffle, then yes." Karen stirred her coffee thoughtfully, her gaze fixed on Mandy's face. "I don't know, Mandy," she mused. "It feels like you might have stirred up a hornet's nest. Not everyone shares your perspective, you know." Mandy's lips tightened. "I'm not seeking universal agreement, Karen," she replied firmly. "I'm committed to maintaining safety here. That hat represents things I can't condone." Karen nodded, a flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. However, she chose not to press the issue. She swept the offending item into her apron pocket without a second thought, then glanced nervously at the door, half anticipating a return visit from the irate customer, perhaps accompanied by reinforcements. The door remained stubbornly closed, however, and the hours crawled by. By dinner service, the initial commotion had subsided. Yet a lingering unease persisted, a premonition of impending trouble. The calm felt ominous, a deceptive lull before a storm. Elon leaned against the booth, his gaze steady despite his relaxed posture. It wasn't just about the hat, he explained, his voice calm. It's about perception, about how readily we judge without understanding. You didn't know me. You didn't ask why I wore it. You simply assumed. The silence hung heavy, the weight of the unspoken pressing down on Mandy. His words echoed, a challenge hanging in the charged air. She crossed her arms, her jaw clenched. The murmurs from the other diners grew louder. Gary, ever the instigator, chuckling from his table. "He's got a point, Mandy," he called out. "You weren't exactly welcoming." Mandy disregarded him, her attention fixed on Elon. "You don't understand," she retorted, her voice wavering slightly with frustration. "That hat signifies things deeply personal, things I can't, won't, ignore." Elon responded, his tone surprisingly even. "I understand that," he acknowledged. "However, symbols only hold the power we grant them. True power lies in our interactions, in how we treat one another. A hasty judgment, a snap decision, can have unforeseen consequences, but the silence begged for a response, the pressure of the situation intense. She shot back, her voice firm. "So what? You wanted some kind of social experiment? You deliberately wore that hat knowing it would provoke a reaction, and now you lecture me?" The air thrummed with a mixture of curiosity and disapproval. She wouldn't let him control the narrative, not in her diner.